I want to respond to some of what we heard at last week's council meeting, and I have at least 3 pages here and more at home, so obviously I won't finish it in my 5 minutes, but like a good Charles Dickens novel, I'll just keep coming back and giving you updates. Firstly, I heard some very good and insightful points from everyone on the dais last week, and from staff and from the consultants. And I do mean everyone, even those of you who don't necessarily support what we're doing. Despite claims that we are ideologues, we're always listening, and we're always willing to respond to new information as it's presented. And let me say one thing that you haven't heard much from me. I do very much appreciate the success that Glendale Water and Power has had in increasing the renewable portfolio, and for all of you for supporting their efforts. I also appreciate some of the other things they've done. For instance, I was one of the, I think one of the early adopters of the SEVA program. I hope you all use the SEVA program at home. So I can get on my phone, and using the Home View app, I can tell you exactly how many kilowatt hours I've used today. It's a great tool, and I've made a lot of use of it. So you don't hear me say these things a lot because you know our time up here is very precious. We get a few minutes, and there's so much to say, and so sometimes it goes by the wayside. But I do want to say I'm sorry if it seems like I'm not aware or recognizing the good things that the city is doing. I certainly am. Okay. With that out of the way, I heard several things from the dais last week which I can't let go without a response. There were things that were said about us, about the Glendale Environmental Coalition, that I think were dismissive and frankly insulting to a large number of people. First, it was suggested that the crowd that turned up last week was somehow a bunch of people bussed in from far and wide who don't really reflect the Glendale community. The implication was that, you know, they shouldn't be telling us what to do, and what they said doesn't really matter. So let me correct the record on that. We estimate conservatively that 500 people came here last week, those opposed to the Grayson Project. I'm not including the union folks that came. We had a sign-up sheet, and this is how we know this. We had a sign-up sheet downstairs. People were signing in, and on that sheet we collected 420 names and where the people are from. They put their city of residence. We know a lot more people directed directly into the overflow room, so there were a lot more than 420, but we got 420 names. I looked over those names, and I made a list of where the people were from, and 60% roughly are from right here in Glendale. That's something like 300 Glendale residents physically making their way to council on a Tuesday evening. I don't think that's something that council should wave its hand at and disregard. And I don't think those people are too impressed when they get written off like that. All right, and the point about some people being from Sacramento I thought was unnecessary. We had one expert come down from Sacramento, as you know, and by the way, he had a lot to say that the council would have benefited from. Unfortunately, he had only 5 or 6 minutes to speak. But anyway, let's move on. It was suggested that we want to deep six the EIR. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. What we've been saying is we want to pause. The work that's been done does not go in the trash can. And I think we've been very, very clear about that. We suggested pausing because the EIR is fundamentally flawed. It's asking an outdated question. It's asking what the best gas solution is to replace Grayson. It's not asking what's the best energy solution to replace Grayson. This is clear from the way we went out to find the consultants. The criteria that we established was experience with gas-fired generation technology. We did not seek out people who know zero-carbon alternatives. That was how the RFP was put together, at least according to the staff report. So forget the conflict of interest issue for now, although I think it's an important issue. But let's forget that for now. The fact is that we looked for people specifically to give us a gas solution, so we should not be surprised that they gave us a gas solution. They compared that solution to a few oversimplified alternatives, but they are not expert in the alternatives. This is the crux of the problem. This is why we see little point spending additional time and money completing the EIR. But okay, it's virtually finished, and you want it to be presented to the public, and I get that. That's a fair point. I have no problem. Having said that, we should not be wasting precious time and sitting on our hands until March to start investigating alternatives. At this point, we do not know the true extent to which we can meet our needs without combusting fossil fuels. We need to find that out. We need to find that out as quickly as possible. I believe it behooves the Council to get that started sooner rather than later. To be continued. Thank you.